Speaker.
Order. Ron Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? New Zealand First, I want to start by acknowledging the passing last week of one Helen Skerr from Oxford in the Waimakariri electorate. Helen Skerr supported myself and Winston Peters and New Zealand First for 22 years as a founding member. But Helen Skerr was also a lady of the land, a farming wife, a farmer herself, someone who operated with her husband and managed Mount White Station many, many years ago back in the hard times, and later on ran their farm in Oxford. And she would be appalled as a long-term National Party voter for many, many years to hear the answers to questions with respect to the plight of the dairy industry and farmers who are facing the wall right now. And it just astonishes me. I can accept that the Green Party, Mr. Speaker, has had this thing about dairy farmers for a long time, and it's hard to ignore their reasoning. And I can accept that Labor Party doesn't particularly like farmers because they most tended to vote National, but that's changing big time. Big time, I know, because of the reception that the Minister Nathan Guy got when he turned up to the Rural and Provincial Local Government Conference just recently, where he was told bluntly by former card-carrying members of the National Party, farmers who believe this government's totally out of touch. I've got to say to Mr. Speaker, what does it take? 100,000 businesses, 1 million people in New Zealand who depend on the farming sector for their income. And we have farmers, we have a farmer in the Wairarapa right now, and there are more lined up. And we try to work, and the Prime Minister says, don't come in crying crocodile tears, give us some solutions. Well, New Zealand First has offered a solution to assist with the plight of the dairy farmers, of all farmers, Mr. Speaker. It is called our Farming Debt Remediation Bill. And what is the government's answer? Won't support it, don't require it. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, working on a case right now, and we'll be working on more, because they are coming down the line where farmers have been liquidated, been wound up there and evicted from their properties. We know that for every farmer that goes out the back door and for every bank that recovers its money, there's a raft of unsecured creditors, silage contractors, fencers, people who do the irrigation, people who put on the water reticulation, people who drill the wells, people who help the trucking companies. These people are unsecured creditors throughout rural New Zealand, and they will be hit, and they will lay off staff. And what has the National Party said? Oh, the wine industry is doing well. Well, Mr. Scott may say that, being an investor in the wine industry himself, or the kiwi fruit industry. That's fine. But what about the dairy farmers who were the champions of this government's economic recovery? I call National now, and they call in the rural sector, rural communities, fair weather friends. Fair weather friends. There to trumpet the gains and the successes and the employment when it's all going well. But when it turns to custard and it goes down below $3 and down to $3.90 and it goes further, what do they say? Oh, it's not a concern. We've stress tested it. It's going to be fine. Well, we heard a story of a milk tanker driver who pulled up at a dairy unit just recently, a week ago. He pulled up outside to load up the milk, and spray painted on the words with some words that I won't put in here, but I'll abbreviate them and say that this farmer had had a guts full of Fonterra. When he went inside the dairy shed, he found this farmer hanging from the rafters. That is not the first suicide that tanker driver has come across, and there's more coming. And what is this government doing? Nothing. We have offered a solution, a farm debt remediation bill. Let us put it through the House. Let us help these people in need. Let us stop the banks ripping them off at 9% interest and then hitting them again at 22 on their credit cards when they try to buy their groceries, buy their clothes for their kids because their farms are running at a loss. Let's do something other than sit on our hands, National, and do nothing while more and more farmers commit suicide, while their families are torn apart. But I guess you just don't want to, do you?
Order.